Good morning. Hello, this is Berkshire Family History Presents. Today we're talking with Lisa Torrey, the Director of Retired and Senior Volunteer Programs, also known familiarly by RSVP. So many Berkshire organizations, including our organization, rely on volunteers who offer time, experience, and willingness to contribute to the vitality of our community. So let's talk this morning with Lisa and find out more about RSVP. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Let's get started. We began talking earlier. This is an enormous organization, and I was unaware of that. So can you tell us a little bit about how it works and how it works within Berkshire County?
Sure. So we have been a city department since 1973. So 51 years. The city of Pittsfield has been our sponsor for the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. RSVP became a national program in 1971. It is part of the federal government, and it's been branded most recently under the AmeriCorps Seniors Program. So what we do is we take retired and or senior volunteers, and we match them up with community needs for volunteerism. Like yours,
yes,
which is a nonprofit. So we partner with nonprofits and proprietary healthcare agencies and government agencies like the City of Pittsfield, municipalities that need volunteer support.
Oh. So can any organization within the county come to you and say, we could use volunteers in certain capacities? Or does it have to be one of the nonprofit organizations or governmental organizations that use your services?
They have to have 501c3, so they have to have
their tax status.
Or 501c7 in your case. So we have to have that on file for them, and we sign a memorandum of understanding with each of the nonprofits that we are partnered with.
Okay, so it's nonprofits that you work with.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So currently we are partnered with 60 nonprofits and proprietary healthcare, like Berkshire Health Systems we're partnered with as well.
Oh, that's an enormous organization.
Yes.
So if Berkshire Health Systems comes to you and said we could use volunteers in some capacity, at that point you begin putting people together with them? Is that how that works?
Yes. So we get a job description from each of our, we refer to them as stations.
Sure. Why not?
Where people volunteer. We get a job description, sometimes several job descriptions, depending on what the station's needs are. And then we are able to go back to our pool of volunteers. We have a monthly newsletter that we put out to the volunteers. Usually we have the newest job offerings up front.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you have a newspaper or a newsletter that goes out. Mm-hmm. And who does it go to?
So that goes out to, we currently have over 420 volunteers registered to volunteer, with about 300 of them being active volunteers right now, meaning that they are actively volunteering within the last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how do people become a volunteer with you?
So they sign up, they sign an application. We get a little bit of information about each person, what they're interested in, what they did in their career, what they kind of would like to do, because you could totally reinvent yourself during your retired time.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, or you can tap into the experience that you already have and bring that along with you. So, and then we try to pair up the volunteer with the organization that needs help. So we kind of go through an interview process. So we're kind of the first place where the volunteer comes through, and then we find a good fit for them.
So does the volunteer come to you physically, or is there a way to contact you? Or, yeah, there must be with your letter. Is that how that works, with your newsletter?
Yeah, so we usually, we meet with every volunteer that we sign up. We do a query check with each volunteer. They are vetted through the National Sex Offender Registry to make sure that they're able to serve in a volunteer role. And we interview them, you know, sit with them, get to know them. Yeah.
You said something a minute ago about, as a retired person, reinventing yourself. And it never occurred to me that way, but you make a very valid point. I really didn't know anything about genealogy until I retired. And that was not something I had ever done in the past. So I guess I am an example of reinventing myself, learning about genealogy, and sort of getting hooked on the whole process, and beginning my own genealogy, and then investing my time and energy with Berkshire Family History. So that's excellent to know, excellent to know. How long have you been there, Lisa?
So I have been the director for 2.5 years now. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And because Berkshire Family History is based in the Pittsfield Library, you're right downstairs from us.
Yeah, we're neighbors.
You're neighbors. You're our downstairs neighbors. So that's good if we ever need to talk with you. Yeah, yeah. Do you have a lot of people on your own staff?
We are a staff of 3 people, myself included. I have an administrative assistant, and I also have a volunteer coordinator.
What is the volunteer coordinator does what you explained before? Is that it, matching up people?
Yeah. She's responsible for collecting the hours. So we do a lot of, because we are a government-funded program, we have to report the hours back to AmeriCorps. We're partially grant funded, so we get about 30% of our funding from the AmeriCorps Senior Grant, and about 70% of it comes from the city of Pittsfield.
So it's funded that way. Okay, that's good to know. So volunteers do not have to pay anything, any fees or anything like that? No. Just show up and say, I'm here.
Yep. You got it.
Great. So when somebody comes in and says, Lisa, I'd like to be a volunteer, but I don't know what, or I don't know what I want to do. And that's when you begin finding out more about the person?
That's
How
when
do you do that?
Then we begin getting to know the person. You know, do they like to be around people? Do they want to work in a capacity where they're kind of on their own? Do they want something that's more like a job where they're expected to be at a certain place, a certain time, on a regular basis? Or do they want to have an opportunity where there's some flexibility? So we kind of, we really get to know them and what their interests are.
That's incredible that you take that much care to sort of figure out where people want to be. I think volunteering is appealing to some people, but they feel a little bit hesitant because they just don't know how. So I would say, and you would say, that coming into RSVP is a good first step. Would you think that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. I think Not only that, but it gives them a connection to the staff. So now they're comfortable coming in and talking about what they'd like to do in the community, and they've gotten to know us and perhaps gotten to know some of the other volunteers that they might meet in the office. So it makes them more comfortable, going out into the community.
Because I think people get the idea, well, I don't know what to do or how to do. So that's their first step. How did you get into this?
So I worked for the school department for about 7 years. And then I came over to the what we refer to as the city side. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I started working in the veterans office. At that time, I was going back to school. I was pursuing my bachelor's degree at MCLA in Human Services, and then this job came up.
Wonderful.
And so, yeah.
So RSVP is funded from various places, including the city and AmeriCorps. And then the volunteers go out and represent you as being out there. I'm a volunteer, and I came here through RSVP. So they're spreading the word, so to speak, when they're out there.
Yes. Yeah.
That's excellent.
So we want it to be a high-quality volunteer experience for them, but we also want our stations to have a high-quality experience as well.
Yes. Yeah, I have to get used to that term, stations, but it makes it's a good word to use.
Yeah.
It's a good word to use. Okay, do you get requests from many organizations within the county? How many do you get frequent requests for volunteers?
Yeah, of course.
And every type of organization?
Yeah.
As long as it's a nonprofit?
As long as it's a nonprofit. So we have 3 major focus areas on our grant. The first being our transportation program, which is kind of what we're well known for, is our transportation program. So about 50 years ago, the city invested in a vehicle that transports residents for free to medical appointments.
Oh.
So it's a van that's driven by one of my volunteers, one of my RSVP volunteers, and it runs Monday through Friday, and it's free of charge to city residents. So it's called Aging in Place, so that residents can remain in their home and still have medical equity by accessing their medical appointments. Because maybe you have given up your license, maybe
so
you've never driven before. But,
driving,
so the van also is used to bring residents to social engagements, like to the Council on Aging. And it is also used for volunteers that don't have a way to get to their volunteer job.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So we have that transportation program, and then in 2021 we launched our Wheels for Wellness program, and that has enabled us to expand the service county-wide. And those are volunteers that are driving their own vehicles to pick up residents,
people,
and bring them to medical appointments. Now, sometimes that might be to the cancer center.
Yes.
And the person might live in North Adams, and they need to go to the cancer center. So that's helping that need in the community.
So if I were sitting at home and I could no longer drive, does contacting you become my first step to get that type of program for me?
Yes. Yeah. So we have a few requirements. One being it's not an on-demand service.
No, I figured that.
Yep. So we require 2 full business days of notice, although we tell people if you know that you have an appointment that's coming up, that's 2 or 3 weeks out, to give us a call so you can get in the schedule. And we do require that the person is able to get in and out of the vehicle on their own.
Of course.
Of
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
yes.
these are also seniors.
Of course, I know. We all got creaky knees.
Yeah, we don't want them to get hurt helping or assisting somebody getting in and out of the vehicle. We do say that you are able to bring somebody along that can help you if you do have difficulty.
I was going to ask you that. This is a peculiar question, but if I were a senior, I am, of course, I should say that, and I needed your services, would I feel comfortable getting into a car with an unknown driver? How do we make me feel more comfortable about that?
Right. So our drivers, again, have all gone through the Torrey check, gone through the National Sex Offender Registry. We've done a driver record check on them. We get their current license, their insurance, their registration is on file. They've gone through a driver training.
Good.
And we also offer secondary insurance coverage to all of our volunteers.
Yes. Oh, that's worthy.
So they all have volunteer insurance as their secondary insurance coverage.
That is very worthy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of the things that our stations really like, because some stations have volunteers sign a liability waiver. So that kind of helps cover that a little bit. You know, if somebody gets hurt while they're on their volunteer job, they're covered under that volunteer. Yeah, which is why the hour reporting is important to us as well.
Yeah, that's marvelous. You've covered every detail here. When we started this, you began talking about the focus, and you said the number one focus is the transportation. Were there other focuses that you go into?
Yeah, so one of them is food security.
Food security.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that.
So we have volunteers that are working in various food pantries throughout the area, the biggest one being South Community Food Pantry, of course.
Which is where?
Which is on South Street in Pittsfield.
Okay.
Yep. We have about 40 volunteers that we send to South Community Food Pantry, including Mary Wheat, who's one of our RSVP volunteers, who's kind of a star in Berkshire County. Yes. She's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another one of our focus areas. Environmental stewardship is another one.
Talk about that a little bit.
So Pittsfield Beautiful is our station of the year this year, and Pittsfield Beautiful literally is making Pittsfield beautiful. They are responsible for all the beautiful flower beds that you see around downtown Pittsfield and the planters.
Yeah.
And they are entirely volunteer run, and the majority of them are RSVP volunteers.
So the volunteers in that program actually dig in the dirt, so to speak, you're putting in the flowers and maintaining them and keeping them clear and weeded out and watered if necessary.
Yes,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I've seen the planters, but I had no idea of your connection with that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very enlightening here.
Yeah. I mean, so we do a little bit. I mean, we have our focus areas for our grant. We have to report data back to the federal government on how our volunteers have improved our community. But we also have stations like yours that we're sending volunteers into that have a need, like yours in the Colonial Theater, for instance. When I've gone to see a show at the Colonial Theater and I can kind of point out, oh, that's my volunteer, that's one of my volunteers.
Yes. So the volunteers in some of the theaters and some of the theatrical producers come there through you? They don't go directly to the Colonial Theater. They get to you first.
I mean, the Colonial Theater has their own volunteers that they recruit, but we do send quite a number of them to them as well. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, see, you have covered, and you do cover so much that I was unaware of.
Yeah.
This is wonderful to learn.
Yeah.
And I think for our audience out there, it gives a very good spectrum of what is available to them if they choose to volunteer. Speaking of volunteers, as I said earlier, we are an aging county, and that is good for retired people who are still looking to be busy. But I think there's a vital need for volunteers to help out, as you pointed out, not only in healthcare, but in enhancing what the county can offer us in terms of attending theater, getting to plays, getting transportation, doing so much for the county. That's a marvelous organization, marvelous organization. So you've been there for a number of years and you have people there. Has it changed since you began, Lisa? Have you enlarged or enriched your programs in some way?
I feel like we have. Of course, you know, when I took over, we kind of were still in COVID.
Oh, yes.
So I think COVID kind of changed everybody's operation, you know, especially in the volunteer community. So, but I've seen it come back. In fact, I wrote about it extensively on our progress report that it's the first time since I took over that COVID wasn't a real issue. As far as our progress is concerned. So we are making great strides. We had 288 active volunteers in 2023, and they gave back over 36,000 hours of service. So the number has come up because I think when I took over, it was around 220 volunteers that were still active. In 2022, at the beginning of 2022. I think we're moving up.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah, you make a valid point about COVID. It hit so many organizations, and still there's, you know, the effect of that, the cascading effect from that. Yeah. Because volunteers were certainly not going to go out and be volunteers.
It was very hard when you can't be near other people.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, we're getting past that, thank goodness. It's lasted too long. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you find that your staff and yourself are adequate to run such a magnificent, well-developed organization? Or do you need volunteers yourself?
We have a desk volunteer that comes in and helps us out in the office, especially when one of us is out. Like I'm not there this morning. You know, with the transportation program, the phone rings all the time because we do the administrating of that program, which is unusual for an RSVP to. It's unusual and not unusual because typically, like, we'll be sending you the volunteer, you know, to your station, and then you're managing your program. But in the case of the transportation program, RSVP manages the transportation program. So we do get a lot of phone calls. You know, all the time. Surrounding the transportation program.
I can see that. You're coordinating the driver, the appointment, and the need, the person who needs it. And I'm sure there are hiccups along the way due to various problems and so forth. That's amazing. You are a marvelous organization, and I hate to say this in one level, but BFHA has been living upstairs from you for a long time, and I had no idea of the extent of the value of the work that organization does. It's marvelous.
Oh,
Absolutely
thank you.
Marvelous.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you have us on and we're able to get this information out to the public, because I feel like, you know, the more that people know that this is available. Because as you said earlier, and you pointed out the mission very clearly, the mission of RSVP is twofold. It's to help with the community needs that are unmet, that are now being met because we're able to help with the volunteers. but it's also good for our senior population.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is a good way for you to stay connected in your community. It's good for your mind, your body, your spirit. It helps you stay young.
Sure, sure. It keeps us vital. Keeps
Absolutely.
us vital.
So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. As we age, we need to be vital, and we need to keep our brains and bodies going, because otherwise, I just quit. But this gives us an opportunity to really explore some options. And you can also, as a volunteer, decide, well, I can only do 2 hours, and maybe that's all I can manage today. And you'll accommodate the amount of time a volunteer can give, which is very worthwhile, because a lot of people think, oh, I can't do 8 hours, you know, that sort of thing. So that's good that they can do that.
and we've tried to offer things to the volunteers other than just their volunteer roles.
Sure.
Like, we just had a birthday party in the office yesterday, which is so much fun. I have yet to put that on our Facebook page. We do have a Facebook page.
Good.
But it's a good way for the volunteers to come in and connect with other people who are like-minded. And again, with that social piece, like, you know, you don't want to be sitting in your house like a hermit. You want to
be vital and communicate and be well with other people. Lisa, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, not only for the community, but you've enlightened me about all your services, which I had not known. So then I can also tell that to other people as well. And because we've had one of your volunteers just this past week, and we're thrilled that we have her, we have benefited from your program personally, politically, and through our beneficial programs from BFHA. Thank you again, Lisa. And I'll be stopping by and waving.
Yeah,
I might stop in for a birthday party someday.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank Lisa for being here today. She has given us a great deal of information about RSVP. We are very fortunate to have this organization. I'm going to encourage people to think about that. Think about volunteering. Does it fit into your life? Would you want it to fit into your life? And now that you've heard from Lisa that RSVP has so many programs, that I'm sure there's one out there for you. So again, thank you, Lisa. I'm sure you're going to be very successful with this, and we'll be checking in and see what else we got for you. Thank you again, and the next time we'll be at Berkshire Family History Presents. Keep looking for us. Bye-bye now.